You're watching the Talk Community, and I'm your host CJ. We're back to another album ranking, which today is ranking number 80. And I thought, well, let's do something that I usually don't do, and that is let's rank some black metal. So, decided today to rank Judas Iscariot, one of the all-time greatest black metal projects of all time, from the States, which is quite rare for that time for the States. And Judas Iscariot is the best project from the States from that time, in my opinion. So, yeah, 6 studio albums, all of them perfect, all the way through. Don't hate any songs from them. Don't dislike any sounds or any, any minute. I don't dislike any minute from these albums. So, yeah, fair warning, this is all going to probably be me praising the albums constantly. Yeah, let's get into it. Number 6, or my least favorite one from them, is Thy Dying Light from 1996, or the second record, the second album, where they released 2 albums in 1 year, or Akhenaten released 2 albums in that year. Yeah, there's no going wrong with this album. It is raw and primitive as the debut that happened to be released earlier that year in 1996. While the riffs are not as good and isn't as interesting as the debut, that doesn't mean it isn't worth listening to, as Thy Dying Light is still really good. My favorite song from this album is probably They Saw This Pale Visage Emerge from the Darkness, as it is the most aggressive song on this album, the most aggressive piece on this album. And yeah, this album is not as interesting as the first album and kind of falls short, a little bit short, but still is a really good fucking black metal album from that age of like just black metal starting out, or American black metal just like starting out. This is like one of the first projects from that age. Yeah, let's move on. Number 5 is To Embrace the Corpse's Bleeding, and I know I'm about to get some bad comments for this one for being this low. I know a lot of people would have this album a lot higher, but I like the ones above better. There's nothing wrong with this album. I think it's absolutely perfect all the way through. The album returns the raw feel of the early work, of like The Cold Earth Swept Below, Thy Dying Light, Distant and Solitary Night, those albums. But yeah, I just like some of those albums better. Yeah. Uh, the production is perfect black metal production, and being the final one before Akhenaten said that Judas Iscariot was over, this is a great send-off album. It's just advanced songwriting on this one. There's a lot of advanced songwriting. There's a lot of different instrumentation that's not on the other albums. So yeah, it ends Judas Iscariot's discography as perfect with this album. My favorite song on the album is In the Valley of Death, I Am Their King. Of course, the most legendary song that they've ever had. It's the go-to of most people that listen to this band. It was like the go-to when I first got into this band and first started to listen to Judas Iscariot. It was like my favorite song. Not anymore. My favorite song is on number 1. So, spoiler alert, my favorite song of Judas Iscariot is on number 1. Just a legendary black metal song with great instrumentation, like I said before. Number 4 is Distant and Solitary Night. I know that a lot of people would have this actually lower than number 5, probably like number 6 or number 5 on most people's lists, but yeah, this album is along the lines of what the previous 3 has, but still has its own qualities. This album has some bangers to it, and I do return to this album quite often. I do return to Four and Above quite often when I listen to when I want to listen to black metal. I usually go to Judas Iscariot, and this is one of the records that I sometimes this is one of the albums that I sometimes go to. So yeah, um, the main the main quality of this album is the neat riffs sprinkled all over, kind of like the debut. My favorite song in the album is Where the Winter Beats Incessant. The pace changes and the neat riffs make the song a masterpiece. Honestly, that song just goes from really slow riffing to really fast to slow to fast, and it just has a whole different pacing to it. And I really do like that about this. That's the thing with this album too. It has different pacings throughout the whole record, and I just love it for it. It's absolutely amazing stuff. Number 3, Heaven in Flames from 1999. Holy shit, this album is good. This album is packed with atmosphere and unique riffs that hasn't been seen on any other Judas Iscariot record. The clean production makes the riffs pop out and be more prevalent immediately. You feel that the prevalence of those riffs just hit immediately. The vocals are also on point with being absolutely ferocious. The vocals are just ferocious on this album. I would usually not like the clean production, but like the riffs are just so damn good. It's like Abigor's 1999 album. That one as well has that same type of like ferociousness to the riffs. It just goes on full attack mode. I just love those black metal albums that just go on full attack mode. Abigor, The Quintessence of Satan, Dark Funerals, third album does that. Just absolutely amazing stuff. Favorite song on the album, the atmospheric masterpiece, Gaze Upon Heaven in Flames. Holy shit, is this song really, really atmospheric. It has it just builds this weird atmosphere, this cold atmosphere to it. Just absolutely amazing. I love it. Love it. And then number 2, Of Great Eternity from their third album, Judas Iscariot's third album. Much more intense than the first 2 albums. Yes, I already said it was the third. This album has more emphasis on blasting, being along the lines of some of the other black metal bands at the time, like Immortal. Throw this one, Abigor again, Abigor, Emperor. A lot of the like Norwegian bands like to do the blasting, and it's on here. There's some good ones on here that does the blasting really good. Being along the lines of some of the other black metal bands at the time, this album has a cleaner production than the first 2, but isn't detrimental and fits the album quite nice. My favorite song in the album is the first song, The Heavens Drop with Human Gore. The song is one of the best songs Akhenaten ever wrote for this project, and it's just an absolute banger to start the album off. And just the rest of the songs, Call to Heaven for Human Blood is another like really good one that people should really check out if they want to check out this album. This one's the second best for me. So that leaves number 1, or the debut album, The Cold Earth Swept Below, my favorite of Judas Iscariot's albums. One of the best black metal albums of all time. How raw this album is and how primitive the instruments are just make it a black metal masterpiece. I know people will disagree heavily with my pick of this being my favorite. People will be like, oh, The Brace the Corpse's Bleeding would be better for most people. A lot of other ones down the list would be quite better. But yeah, I'm just really into that like raw sound of this album. And just another thing, the drums are absolutely fantastic on this album. The drumming is just fantastic. It's just so over the toply, just primitive drumming on this album. Love it. I know I cannot deny how much I love this album, how much I go back to this album. I go back to this album quite a lot. My favorite song, or my favorite Judas Iscariot song ever, is Babylon on this album, and just such hard-hitting song. Just that riff that's in it. That one riff just carries and carries and carries minutes and minutes and minutes. And yeah, it's just such just a very fucking good black metal album. So yeah, that's how I rank Judas Iscariot. Everybody liked it. Yeah. So I will see everyone in the next video whenever I decide to upload again.